Hi, I am Vanessa Huerta Granda, and I am a solutions engineer at Jelly.io. You can find me on Twitter at V_Hugh_G. I talk about technology, DEI, and incidents. I've been working in technology for the past decade, focusing on incident response and learning from incidents. And I truly, truly, truly believe learning from incidents is the key that can help software organizations improve how we do our work. Today, I want to talk about evolving your metrics program, specifically evolving past MTTX. So you have a lot of incidents. I've been there, you've been there. If you don't think you've been there, you're probably there right now. And this can feel suffocating, especially when it's similar incidents happening over and over again. And a good first step when you're trying to move from fighting fires all the time is to try to understand them. So you start collecting data. Where are the incidents happening? Who are they impacting? How long do they last? And you gather this data and you share it. And maybe you start getting some things done, right? You show your boss's boss and you're like, hey, a lot of our incidents could be fixed with some post-release checks. And they're like, you know what? That's a cheap solution. Let's do that. So you feel powerful. But then that data turns into goals. So then at some point, your boss's boss wants to improve MTTX and they want that to be part of your team's goals for the next year, which I get because that's an easy thing to measure. And when I say MTTX, it can mean anything, right? MTTR, MTTD, mean time to resolution, mean time to detect, mean time to wake someone up at 3 a.m. during the holiday weekend, mean time to turn off the pager and throw it across the room, mean time to realize that this incident is actually impacting the whole company and we are all in trouble because we didn't tell anyone that this is happening. But none of this actually tells you anything, right? If I go to your boss's boss and I say, hey, we had 50 incidents in Q1 and they averaged 55 minutes. What does that mean? What is that telling you? That's not really telling you anything about your systems, right? It's not telling you anything about how you're recovering, how resilient you are, how your teams are responding. So why are we doing this? And this is where we get into metrics versus insights, which should really be the alternate title to this talk. And the alternate to the alternate should be because you can't just tell your boss's boss that metrics are silly. So in this presentation, I'm going to propose that we evolve our metrics program by using insights to help drive the conversation whenever your boss's boss asks for these MTT metrics. I truly believe that responders, practitioners, leaders, and executives are all on the same team. And we have the opportunity to drive the conversation away from meaningless metrics into insights that make a difference. What I am presenting here is based on my previous experience at technology organizations. And in my experience, a targeted but holistic focus on metrics not only helped me more clearly demonstrate the business case of what I'm doing and what I'm proposing to others, but it also helped me and helped my organization become more comfortable with the concept of learning from incidents. So who are you, the person that's rallying for these insights? You've probably been intimately involved in incidents and post-incident actions. These can be postmortems, learning reviews, maybe you've led them, maybe you've attended them, maybe you've seen firsthand some common themes, maybe you've written some reports, maybe you've just been woken up way too many times on like Thanksgiving Day because you're answering the pager. You also want to get out of the cycle of incidents. You know you're never going to get to 0 incidents, but you also want to get out of the cycle of repetitive incidents. You know not everything is going to be achieved through action items. Some of these things are larger initiatives that are not within your authority to decide. And you know that there are themes that are shared across incidents that can benefit from a deeper analysis. So if you worked in technology for a while, you may believe that change doesn't actually happen. So you might be asking yourself, why even bother? Lucky for you, I'm an optimist. And I really think that learning from incidents can help us marry leadership's need for visibility with practitioners' insights. In order to get out of the cycle of fighting fires, we need to understand our incidents at a deep level. And through learning from incidents, we can make strategic recommendations on improvements in how we do our work. We also need to be able to translate what we know to leadership. This can allow us to get buy-in on our recommendations for changes, both in our technology and our culture. And then folks across the organization will have a better understanding of what goes on behind keeping the lights on. This no longer is something that only the ops folks do. This is something that everybody understands. The product teams understand, marketing understands, your executives understand. So how do you actually evolve your metrics program? I've broken it out into 3 different stages, which I'll go into more detail in this presentation. Capture data, look at macro metrics and dig into the context, and present in a digestible format. So you capture data through the analysis of incidents, focusing on learning from them. This is different than just filling out some sort of postmortem template. This is different than just trying to fix the incidents. This is usually done through gathering themes from interviews, the review meetings themselves, any larger discussions that you're having with leaders and experts. Then you periodically take a look at the macro metrics that leadership usually likes. These are usually your MTTR, your counts of incidents. And you dig into the context that the data you gather earlier from the incidents is providing you. And you do that in order to present all of this in a digestible format to get buy-in for the recommendations that you're making for future focus. So step 1 is capturing the data. And during your analysis, this is what you do during your analysis of individual incidents. You will review tons and tons of different sources. You'll review transcripts, you'll review Slacks, multiple Slack channels probably, Zoom, Google Meets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You will interview responders, the people who were actually responding during the incidents. You will also interview people who were impacted by the incidents maybe. And then you'll lead some sort of review meeting, right? Your postmortem, your learning review, whatever it is that you want to call it. You'll also discuss this with your coworkers. Maybe you'll stop by their desk and you'll chat with them, or you Slack them and you're just like gossiping about the incident. That's also data. And then from that, you can start building out themes. So think of all the interesting bits of an incident. If you're reviewing a transcript, think about what you look at the most. What questions did you have? The things that people tell their coworkers about after, weeks after an incident. What surprised them? What was that aha moment? What are the things that people talk about after work or during the holiday party, right? Like maybe you're at the holiday party, you're like, hey, remember that incident from April where like everything went terrible and it was DNS and it was never DNS. What frustrated people about this incident? What were the moments where people were like, dang, this always happens, or I was so dumb, how did I not know this? What helped make this incident better or worse? Were there some tools, some documentations that really helped us resolve this incident? Or maybe there was a lack of documentation that made this difficult. Long tenure, maybe there was somebody who has been at the company for like 10 years and they just have all of this context that helped us resolve the incident faster. Or maybe that person was actually at a previous team before and they have some interesting ideas. They have some knowledge that nobody else at the team resolving the incident has. So this is all data. You should be recording all of this data. This is different, of course, than your data of like the incident lasted 55 minutes, right? But it's still really interesting information. I would say much more interesting, actually. So once you have this information for your individual incidents, it's time to look at them holistically. And this is often the part where people get lost and are like 50 incidents, 55-minute MTTR. But you're not going to stop there. You're going to dig deeper and also come up with insights and recommendations. When looking at your incidents at a macro level, you can start thinking of commonalities and outliers. For commonalities, think, which themes come up often across incidents? Are there any teams or technologies that are involved in incidents more often? Hey, it seems like the platform team is involved in a lot of incidents, or this SQS thing is always biting us. What's up with that? Which tools are most often involved when it comes to identifying and resolving incidents? For outliers, think of which incidents took much longer to resolve than others. Like, hey, this incident in April took like 5 days to resolve. All of our other incidents are resolved in like 2 hours or less than that. Or which incidents involved a larger number of responders, right? Like, hey, maybe this incident, like everybody was involved. Like all of the other incidents are resolved within one team, but this one had like 50 people. So you might want to look deeper into that. And while we don't want to focus on specific action items during individual incident reviews, when you're reviewing your incidents at a macro level, here we can take this as an opportunity to work through strategic recommendations. For ongoing themes, look at the recommendations that were made during the incident reviews. Some of these recommendations were maybe too large of an initiative for an action item. But if that piece of technology keeps biting us, then maybe we can take a look back at what people thought back then during the postmortem, and maybe it makes sense to address it now. For teams or technologies impacted, work through how we can alleviate the pain. Don't be afraid to think big. This is your chance to propose larger initiatives. This is where you propose like a re-architecture or a dreaded reorg. Talk to your subject matter experts and members of those teams and ask for their feedback. These are the people who will give insights and who will give your insights and recommendations credibility. These are the people who you go up to them and you're like, hey, I know you know a lot about this technology. This is what I've seen. This is what I'm recommending. Am I crazy? What do you think we should do? For tools most used in incidents, think of who else can benefit from them, right? How do we make them more available? If you're looking at incidents and you're like, hey, this team is doing amazing with incidents. Looks like they use this dashboard. How can we make that available to everyone without it costing us too much time or too many people or too much money? So these are all recommendations that you can actually make to leadership that maybe in the past you would feel awkward asking for. So once you have your data and insights and recommendations, it's your turn to show your work. When preparing to show my insights, I usually follow this template, which you can steal, and I'll go into more detail. But always think of your audience. Tell them a story. Show them numbers and context. They'll want to see how often these themes or examples are happening and how they are impacting the org before buying into your proposed solutions. Keep it concise, and then ask for feedback and ask for sponsorship. So to more detail here, thinking first of your audience. So you'll be sharing your findings with folks that are not in the sharp end. These people are not as intimately familiar with incident analysis or the incidents you speak of. So they're not you and me. I can talk about incidents for the rest of my life. I'm obsessed with them, right? But these people don't care that much. But they are often impacted by them. And they do have the authority to approve large technical, organizational, and cultural changes. Probably much more authority than I have. So some of the people that you might want to have there are your C-suite executives, technology leadership, product leadership. I know we often think that engineering and product are at different ends. We're all really on part of the same team. Think of other functions that can be impacted by incidents, maybe marketing, compliance, customer support. More often than not, they're actually also impacted by incidents. And then include your key engineering supporters, your principals, your subject matter experts. Again, they're the ones that are giving you credibility. And I always recommend starting by telling a story. Since your audience, again, is not as familiar with incidents, they may not understand how complex it can be. Take some time to walk them through one incident and show them how you analyze it, how the incident came to be, what were the contributing factors and triggers, how we knew about the incident. Did we get an alert? Did customer service let us know because everybody was complaining about it? How did we resolve it? What tools did we use? What helped and what prevented us from resolving the incident? What we learned. And finally, what were some of the larger themes that we see across the incidents? So this may be the first time that your audience is seeing this kind of narrative of an incident, so make it fun. Here's an example, and I usually would add pictures and numbers, but anyway. So the example is this. During the Thanksgiving holiday, we received multiple complaints of customers unable to access the Add to Cart button. This incident was escalated through customer support, and eventually the engineer on call realized a change made the previous day to a non-critical service was causing this problem. This was fixed by reverting the change and re-releasing. The outage lasted 5 hours with 12 responders from 3 different teams. There's your numbers right there. The incident highlighted a number of themes. One, console is perceived as a non-critical service, but it actually impacts a large number of critical needs. Two, console is supported by a handful of engineers who inherited it. Three, only one person at the company, not in that team, knows how console works and what it touches. Four, escalation policies during the holiday made it tough for the on-call engineers to quickly resolve the issue. And five, the code freeze period can lead to changes being rushed out the door. And I'm sure that many people here will agree that these themes are not just part of one organization, that we see these things happening everywhere. Like, man, only one person knows how this works and they're not even in that team. And that's the beauty of telling a story. Maybe your audience heard of this incident when it happened, or maybe they didn't. It happened during Thanksgiving, after all. But the odds are that they had no idea of all of these like juicy details. All of the themes, I bet, aren't only part of this incident, but are probably things that are felt by many other teams in your organization. One incident and at least 5 learnings and 5 themes and opportunities to collaborate and improve the way we work. I love this kind of presentation. So once you have an idea of what kind of things we can learn from incidents, you can start sharing your analysis. And you kind of have to share numbers because they back up what you're saying. You're not making this up. You have concrete reasons behind your recommendations. But when presenting numbers, also include the context. If you're showing numbers of incidents throughout the year, also mention any code freezes. Also mention any large changes going into production, any lead time for new initiatives or compliance and risk deliverables. If you're showing distribution of contributing factors or distribution of teams impacted, discuss what they've been working on throughout the year, the seniority of their responders, discuss any past organizational changes. Those also have impact on the way that we handle incidents. Show the numbers and context, and then make your recommendations. And I have a few examples in the next slides of how you would do that. So example 1, you can come in and say, throughout my analysis, I learned that X proportion of incidents are tied to an antiquated CICD pipeline. This impacts Y number of teams across Z products and makes it hard to onboard new members. Based on feedback from stakeholders, we recommend that we focus on re-architecting this. So you're not suggesting a 4-month project because you feel like it. You're suggesting it because you have the data to back it up. A second example. A bottleneck during 8% of incidents is a lack of centralized place for communication. Some teams are better than others, but this leads to engineers being interrupted by stakeholders needing updates. We recommend working on an engineering-wide process that takes into account how we communicate during incidents and highlights a centralized communication platform. Again, here you're proposing a large change into how we do our engineering work, but you have the data to back it up. We also often present numbers in like a table format or a chart form, and that is completely fine. But here we are adding the context of themes. So instead of just having a count of incidents per team, we're saying, you know what, we had 4 incidents that were related to an antiquated CI/CD pipeline, and they impacted all of these teams. We had 3 incidents that shared the theme of unclear communication. We had 3 themes that were related to our reliance on single points of failure. And you're adding context and you're really telling a story. We often talk about number of incidents. And so here I am presenting the number of incidents, but instead of just counting the number of incidents, I can tell the story that we are disproportionately seeing incidents in January post-code freeze. I'm telling a story, I'm adding the context. So knowing what kind of information to present, I do have a few tips on how to make this whole sharing with leadership go smoothly, mostly to keep it concise and to ask for buy-in. You can choose how you share this information, but it needs to be in a digestible format in order to make a difference. It can be a presentation, it can be an email, it can be a memo. This format should help leaders understand a few things. They should understand why they should care about incidents, how we learn from them, and what and why we are recommending. Optics matter. This is your chance to share this information to an audience that can make change happen. And you've done your homework, so make sure they understand that your insights are based in reality. Again, you're not asking for a 4-month project because you feel like it. Encourage folks to participate. You can make recommendations, but they can help build out the specifics. If you're asking for a re-architecture, you can ask the principals or the team managers to help out with the specifics. How are we actually going to build this? Are we moving to a completely new technology? They can help answer those questions. And then ask for sponsorship to lead the new initiatives, because you're probably asking for project time or for at least teams to adopt a new process. And don't be afraid to name names, right? If you're saying, I believe that we should be re-architecting this, you can also say, we would like team A to own this initiative. And then just a few last thoughts. If you haven't yet, start looking at near misses. I am an advocate for analyzing incidents that were near misses. This gives us a chance to see all the contributing factors and themes around what went well. As you present your number of incidents, also present the number of near misses. In my case, a near miss is something that, thanks to the quick response of the team, we avoided impacting our customers. And highlight your findings. We can deep dive into the recurring themes from those near misses and use that to help set direction for future initiatives. So for example, if some teams have invested more in their observability and that shows in the number of near misses, then we can recommend that other teams follow suit. Quarterly or yearly analysis can also be useful. You want enough data so that your analysis makes sense. So doing weekly analysis maybe works for large companies that have tons and tons of incidents, but usually I recommend doing quarterly and yearly. Time them around planning cycles. Many organizations will plan their work around some sort of calendar milestone. So if your insights are available while this planning is happening, it's much easier to slot in your requests. This work takes time. Especially if you're asking for a large initiative or cultural change. I even recommend starting with easy wins. The more you build up your reputation that this kind of work actually works, the more people will start thinking of incidents and metrics this way, and the more they'll want to work with you. And finally, optics matter. I put that again here for real. Work on building relationships. I mentioned working with principals and SMEs and people in marketing and people in customer service. You really, really get more by working as a team. And if they know you're reliable and if they know your homework, that you've done your homework, then they'll trust you more. So that's it. I truly believe that incident metrics can be a powerful tool in learning from incidents, but it is important that they are presented with context. Incident metrics can be best utilized as a way to set direction for further analysis that can help us uncover the themes around how our systems work and how we respond to failures. By focusing on insights over meaningless numbers, we can turn our incidents into opportunities. Thank you.